I've had Anthony on my show. I've had you, and I've had Josh on, and Austin will be on in a couple weeks. So I've talked to a couple of you guys, but I want to hear this from you. And every single time I get somebody from Factory X on the show, I'm going to ask the same set of questions because I wonder what the answers would be. So this is the Factory X worst list, and I want to know just the first name that comes to your head when I say one of these things. Who would be the worst roommate of everyone in Factory X? Who would be the worst guy?
Brian Mitchell.
Brian Mitchell. Okay, Brian, you have been nominated as the worst roommate. Who would be the worst guy to have as a wingman at a club?
Rafa.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 42 of Mom's Basement MMA. Somehow YouTube keeps letting me upload videos. I've made it 42 without getting banned, so we're just going to keep it rolling. And I have Oscar Moisty Herrera with us today. Your nickname, Moisty, pisses off a lot of people. I know it does. We got to talk about that. I have to ask, how did the nickname... For the edification, for the people listening, and they're like, this guy's nickname is Moisty, we have to start there. So what's up with the nickname, man? You got to explain that.
I actually got the nickname. It was my third fight. So there was a guy named Kaz. He's always saying moist, and then he's always like, oh, like where the... I don't really want to say the B word, but he'd always be like, where the moist bees at? And then he'd always be asking me. And then he's like, come on, bro. I know where all of them are at. and then just eventually he would just always say moist. And then eventually they started calling me Moisty. And then
because like girls like you or something, like they're teasing you, kind of sort of thing.
Yeah, that was his interpretation of it. So
okay.
And then it was actually for one of my fights. Like my old coach filled out my paperwork, and he put the nickname on my paperwork. So I didn't even know. I was walking out to that until I was inside the cage, and then they said the moisturizer, and I was like, oh snap. I even looked up, I was like, what?
Okay, so I have to ask, because social media, the gram, and all that other stuff, like fighters get shit on all the time by regular fat asses that don't fight like me, right?
Yeah,
sure. I'd imagine there's a ton of people that blow up your DMs every single time that you fight, or like comment on like something you're in. And there's that dude that's just like, who is this guy? Like, what's his deal? He's a clown, like, with that stupid name. Like, do you get that every single time you fight?
I've read that. Oh, so either some people, like right after that fight, there was like, I kind of decided to just roll with it because, like, I got, like, a lot of people, like, even some little kids came out the stands, and they were like, can you sign my gloves, Moisty? And I was like, I'm gonna just roll with it. Like, if people think bad about it, it is what it is. Like, but yeah, there's I've read a couple comments like on Tapology, even like how they have some pre-fight things, and they're letting a guy named Moisty, like, what the hell's going on?
I think it's funny, man, and like if it triggers people, that's even better because you're remembered, you know what I mean? And like, I hate to say it, but like that's part of the game. And let's get into some other stuff, nickname aside. I think it's a dope nickname. I think it's hilarious. So we turned pro in July of just this year, July 2021. You are training at a Factory X in Denver, Colorado. You have a perfect 3-0 record. It's about to be 4-0 when you fight on November 14th at Fury FC 53 there in Denver. And I want to talk about Factory X for a second. I mean, that is a gym that doesn't need an introduction. It is one of the most reputable MMA gyms in the entire country, right up there with like Jackson Wink, Elevation. So, what has your experience been like so far? Because there's like two different sides of like big gyms I hear. I've heard some bad things about big gyms for certain guys. You don't get enough attention. There's other fighters that the coaches are more paying attention to. It's hard to get one-on-one time.
It's funny that you kind of say that because actually I would hear a lot of bad stuff about Factory X, just like people that don't want you to go there, like, like they would say the same kind of things that you're saying, right? So I was always scared too. Like I was always like, oh, what am I gonna bring to this gym? Like, they're not even gonna pay attention to me. Like, am I even good enough? You just think a lot of stuff. And but no, ever since I wish I would have gone earlier, ever since I've been there, I've grown a lot. Like I just have like amazing like staff and just like a bunch of great training partners, and we have really big like variety, like 25ers and 35ers. We just have like some of the best guys in the world too, like we have Brandon who's ranked, we have like a lot of guys in the UFC, Youssef, Chris, Jonathan, and a lot of like up and coming guys, me, George, Lorvik. So it's a lot of like I have a lot of good bodies. There's like really nothing you can't really mimic, nothing that you can't mimic, So I felt like they kind of like turned my career around,
I know Youssef is bigger than you. I know he's in a different weight class, but I'm sure what he's been able to like what he brings to the table, just working closely with him, having him in your corner. I feel like that gives you like a huge advantage. Not a lot of people can say that they have somebody of his caliber in their corner. I know that there are former pros that, train and stuff all the time, but you have like an active guy who's in your corner, and that's just I think that gives you like a huge advantage. And he's been with you when you were fighting in these rinky dink shows in like Wyoming. Did you feel like that really kind of gave you an advantage over your opponent, just having him in your corner?
Yeah, I mean, he just has a lot of knowledge, like he knows the game. He's pretty young too. He's around, I think he might be the same age as me or a year younger, and he's pretty loud and vocal. So like, I can hear him I can hear everything he
Well,
tells
I'm on
me.
my couch and I can hear everything too. Despite your age, you're a young guy. I know you're like 25, 26. And when people look at your professional record, they see 3-0. And I think a lot of guys that don't do homework are going to look at that and be like, okay, this guy probably has, maybe 5 fights as an AMI. He's 25, 26 years old. He's got 3 more fights as a pro. Not a lot of time. That's not true. You have a lot of experience despite your age fighting in the AMI scene, and now with these pro fights that you have under your belt. And I would imagine, like, off the top of your head, do you have any idea how many promotions you fought with? If you had to guess, is it like 10,
uh,
including
yeah,
your AMI career?
I'd have to say like around 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and now like transferring all of that, everything that you've experienced as an AMI, and now when you just made your pro debut, like you've been around a lot of different organizations. You've seen how people do business. Is there a promotion out there that you've been a part of that you're like, wow, I really like how they do things? Like they treat me pretty well, or are they pretty much all the same at the end of the day?
No, there's definitely been some pretty shitty promotions and some like,
Sure.
like there's been a lot of nice ones. And I mean, like all the top promotions that there really is, like throughout my, that was really good that I got to experience all of them like right off. Well, I fought for LFA when I was like, when it was RFA, I
Right.
made my amateur debut against, actually I made my amateur debut against the last kid I just beat in 2016. on RFA, so it was on
Nice.
RFA before it was LFA, and all the all the top promotions that you know about LFA, Fury, Combate. They're all good experience, and honestly, Fury just gave me a contract, so we just
LFA to Combate, and this will be your second fight with Fury. So it's a Fury fight and then another Fury fight. Are you on a multiple deal with them, or is this just like, are you on
um
like one fight deals right now?
no, so nobody offered me a contract. Like, uh, I made my pro debut for LFA. I didn't get a contract with them. Like, they didn't tell me nothing. I went with Combate. I went with Combate 2 weeks later, so I made my pro debut and fought 2 weeks later on Combate out
Right.
in Miami. And then they didn't give me a contract, so Fury just offered it like right off the bat. Like, there was a home fight here, so I sold a bunch of tickets here. I sold like $15,000 of tickets, and
Wow.
they offered me a contract before they even knew that. They gave me a 4 fight deal, and actually a lot of guys there at the gym. So
Being a flyweight in general, and I think there are good things about being a 25er, but then there are also some shitty things about being a 25er. Here's what I mean.
but
From a promotional standpoint, like Bellator doesn't have a 25 class, PFL doesn't have a 25 class. So in terms of like what's next for you, is like 25 your home? Would you consider a move to 35? Because I know you're 5'6", 5'7", so you're a pretty big dude, and you could probably do that compared to like other flyweights that are like 5'4", like really really small guys. You're a pretty big flyweight in my opinion. So is that something you would think about ever, or probably not?
not right now. Like, I'm not so short, but I'm also not the biggest 25. I'm not super, like, I don't walk around super heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if a move to 35 right now wouldn't make sense. Like, so right now I'm gonna stay at 25 and then see what, if my body grows a little bit more, like if I
Sure.
get a little thicker.
I got you. Well, there's a good thing about being in 25, particularly with the UFC, because I look at that roster. I look at there's only like 30 dudes that are in the 25 class in the UFC. And just
Yeah.
looking at some of the names, like, yeah, there are some savages. There are a couple, like, really good ones, but there are also guys that have been in the game for a very long time. And you just wonder how many fights they have left. And I'm kind of like, it's not unrealistic for a newcomer to go into that division, the UFC, and start getting some big fights. Whereas if you were to like go into the UFC at like 55 or
Oh yeah.
70, you're talking about the two deepest classes in the entire promotion. And for you to get like a ranked fight, you'd have to like probably fight out your first contract before you even got a ranked fight. That's one really good thing about being a 25er is you might not be that far away from getting a call.
Yeah, it's just they don't have as many on the roster as the other weight classes. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility. And like Brandon, you seen how Brandon made it, like, getting into the UFC and shot up. Like, it wasn't like necessarily right away because he has been working, for a long time. He's been pro for a while, but
Right.
and he's been working hard. But he got into the UFC and then he was ranked. He beat a top guy right off the bat.
Since you turned pro, it's been one of those situations where every single guy that you fought, with the exception of this Robert Casper, whom you're going to be fighting here shortly, and we'll get into that one, but every single guy that you fought so far has been making their debut against you. And when you're fighting against a guy who's making their debut, is that hard to game plan for somebody like that when there may not be a lot of tape on them?
I like some guys don't like looking at tape. Like, like there's a lot of guys that just don't like really care about looking at tape. I look at a lot of tape. Like, like I don't I'm not afraid to to say that. Like, I look at my opponents. I try to see what, like what they bring to the table. But yeah, there's not. It kind of like, sometimes I think I'll worry too much. Like, so these last fights that I haven't really been able to know anything about my opponents, I kind of just been worried about myself and just a little more, free, and like just not so, worried about about what they bring and just kind of focusing on me. So there's like pros and cons to it, you know.
I think for me, if I were in your position, like I would probably Instagram stalk somebody and look at every single thing that they have out there. But I don't know if that's the healthiest thing because, to your point, you want to focus on you and like you want to fight the fight on your terms. You are the type of guy, these are the things that stand out to me. Your takedowns, you are very comfortable on the ground and you can fight on any position on the ground. It doesn't matter if you have top control or not. You are very, very active. You're not the type of guy that's going to go for a takedown and then lay and pray on somebody. That's not you. You are either advancing position. If somebody has top mount on you, you are looking to hip escape, but you're not really looking to like necessarily get on your feet right away. Like I've seen you work off your back. Like in your last fight, there was almost an entire round where you tried getting this guy in an armbar. I think you went for a kimura at one point. I think you went for a guillotine at one point. Like you are constantly trying to set stuff up, and you're very, very active. It's very cool to watch, and like it's your jiu-jitsu that like really stands out to me. And I think that's going to cause a lot of problems for guys that go up against you.
So when I initially started, like I kind of started with no background, so I was just kind of naturally like more into striking, you know. So I would say I'm primarily a striker, and I just I just had to get like I didn't like I didn't like jujitsu honestly at first, like,
Wow.
and then I just kind of grew a love for it because I mean guys are just trying to take me down, and honestly I'm never gonna catch up to the level of wrestling of some of these guys. Like there's guys that wrestled in college, and a lot of those guys I wasn't even supposed to beat. Like they've been wrestling their whole lives, and I didn't do that. Like I played baseball when I was in high school. I never did like really no contact sports. I didn't even start training until I was about 18, 19. So nothing like really physical, but I was just kind of had like heart, and I just kept coming back. And yeah, I had to get good off my back because, everybody's trying to take me down. And
You're very
yeah,
good
now,
off your back. And being in your guard is not a place where people want to be. So if I had a fighter that was going up against you, this is what I would tell him. I would say, we're striking with this dude. We're not going down on the ground with him. Nope, not going to happen. We are going to do takedown defense. If you find yourself on the ground, we're looking for a get up. We're going to scramble. We're going to get back up as soon as we can. We're going to make this like a boxing fight or a kickboxing fight. I'm sure you have heard this a lot. So when it comes to like facing an opponent who doesn't want to go down the ground with you, like what is your mindset about that? Because you talked a little bit about striking and how you're really comfortable with that in a lot of your pro fights, so they end up becoming ground fights. So is that like just kind of like an ace that you have up your sleeve that you're just kind of saving?
like if the fight could stay standing, like that would be great for me. Like I'm comfortable there. That's where I want to be most of the time. But it's an MMA fight, and it's
Sure.
just now I'm comfortable on the ground. Like I used to not be comfortable. So kind of like something that for me to take in. Like I appreciate that a lot because yeah, I worked on my ground game a lot because it wasn't there. When I initially started, like that was my problem in the beginning. Like, oh, let's just pressure this guy, take him down, and that I was beat like that a couple times. So
Your ground game is phenomenal. It really is. It's like that Brian Ortega type of stuff where it's just like, go ahead, T City, man. I'm gonna put you in a freaking triangle. Like I'm gonna choke you out if you like think you're gonna take me down to the ground. I'll let you take me down to the ground, and then I'm gonna choke you out. And I think it's super cool to see. I really enjoy watching that, and I really liked watching your last fight against Trujillo. And here's what I want to say about Trujillo if he's listening. You are a tough bastard. Like, that guy is a savage. And I cannot believe he didn't tap at any point during that fight. I can't believe that. Like, that was insane. I watched that fight, It went to a split decision. I thought it was 29-28. I thought you had it in the bag. I was really surprised that one judge gave it to him. When you look back at that fight, like, what are your thoughts about that? Are you mostly happy with how it went down? Are you kind of pissed off that it was a split? Or is it just one of those things where it's like, it went to a decision, those weird things are going to happen?
Yeah, I initially like didn't, it was, even though like I felt I really dominated the fight, like it's a little tougher than I expected, so I had to battle through some adversity like early. He hit me with like a overhand kind of, and then I started going for all the subs, but for a second I had to like regroup, and uh and it was a high paced fight, and it was a little tougher than I expected, but I felt I dominated the whole thing, and then I got a split decision, and then I went, in the moment, I was just so tired, like after the fight, like
Right.
it took a lot out of me, all those submissions and not getting them. Then I went and rewatched the fight. So two judges gave me 30-27. So they gave me every round,
Mm-hmm.
and one guy gave him 29-28. They gave him the fight. Like,
I didn't really see it. I was surprised, honestly, that it went to a split. But I feel like these things in MMA are happening time and time again where they go to the scorecards and there's always that like WTF moment. So, Oscar, I have to
yeah.
ask, do you want there to be open scoring? Like, would that help you? Or is that something you don't really care about or think about?
So I actually, I think they had it on was it LFA? I don't know if they still do it, but they would actually in live, like, say the scores, and I saw that a couple times, but I don't know if they still do it. And to me, I mean, you're gonna get the score you're gonna get regardless, but it would, yeah, I actually would like it, like if like, okay, I'm down, like that's what they're thinking, so I gotta
Mm-hmm.
go, like, because you can always you're always just going off of like, okay, well, we think we won this round, and like
Right.
we gotta go, or so
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's
I would like it.
I think it's like I think the one fear and like why people might hate on open scoring is like you get a guy that it gets up 2 rounds and then on the third he just gets on his bike and it's like a boring ass fight. But
Yeah,
I
you're
don't if you were down 2 rounds and you knew you had to like go balls to the wall and you had to get a finish, like, and you knew that,
it
would
was
that be
probably
mitigated? Like, would it be mitigated? I don't know. I guess there are two arguments there, and I guess we'll never know which one's right. You're fighting a guy. You're fighting Robert Casper. This is a guy who doesn't have a very good record. He has a 3-7 record, and for you, this is one of those types of fights on paper. It'd probably look very similar to the Lauren Murphy Shevchenko line. Shevchenko was like a -1,000 favorite, and Lauren Murphy was like a +750 dog. I see this when I look at this fight. I see a very similar line right off the top of my head. This is one of those fights where everyone's going to say, Oscar, man, this is you all day, every day. When I look at it, though, for you, like if I'm pretending I'm you, this is a high risk, no reward fight for you. Like, if you beat this guy, everyone's going to be like, you were supposed to beat this guy. But if he makes it
yeah.
a tough fight, then all of a sudden, like, that's going to throw a lot of like question marks out there. Like, is this the type of guy the promotion just threw in front of you and they're like, hey, it's this guy, take it or leave it? Or did you want this guy?
Yeah, this was what was offered to us, like, I have my manager, I'm with Iridium right now. Yeah, this is what was offered to him, and the first offer we got, so we took it.
Hey, and the pay's going to be the same.
I was gonna say, yeah, you are right. Like, it is one of those instances, right? Like, it's a risky fight. Like,
Right.
I beat him, I'm supposed to beat him. It becomes a tough fight. Or anything happens in MMA. If I were to lose, oh damn, you know what? Like, but I mean, I've looked at the kid, and he's a lot better than his record shows. He has really good technical striking, and I just I just don't really know why his record is like that either.
we're getting really close to this fight. It's only a few weeks away, and I just kind of wanted to ask you, just how are you feeling? How's your camp going? Just as you've prepared for this camp, the reason why I ask is because you've been very, very active, starting making your debut in July, and you've been going nonstop ever since. So like, you've been in fighting shape most of 2021 now. And does that like start wearing on you after a while? Like obviously I know you don't walk around at 125. You're probably closer to like 140 pounds, but the constant like cutting multiple times, getting back down to that fighting weight, all of the camps. Like, how are you feeling? Like, does your body start getting tired and stuff after a while, or are you pretty dialed in and good to go?
It's more of a like a mental stress, you know. Okay, I just got like I made my pro debut, right? I've been waiting for that for years. Like I was an amateur since 2016, and I didn't, it's been a long time. And then we fight, right? And then right away, like like you go through the mental stress, like everything leading up to it, like you know, you get nervous, like, and then it's over, right? And then I'm like, oh, I want to do it again, and then right away we go into another fight. 2 weeks later, like I didn't really, honestly, in that second fight, it wasn't until like I was like, okay, like my body's good, like we didn't take too much damage, and it wasn't until like the first exchange I was like, I leg kicked him, and I felt like, oh snap, like my body's like, like it's not what it's not recovered yet. Like, so that was a mental battle for me in the fight, and then afterwards, and then we got a little bit of a more of a layoff after that one, So, but yeah, just the constant mental like, oh, we got another guy, we just won, like we got another guy, like but it's just kind of what you got to do, to advance in the game. Like nobody told me to get into this, like it's what I love to do, and nobody's forcing me to, nobody's pointing a gun to my head saying, hey, you got to go fight. Like it's just what I chose to do, so I gotta make it work. Like this is where the opportunities are at, and this is why everyone's not a fighter.
But it also puts you in a position where you're active. You're letting people know, like, no, like I'm always in shape. I can make the weight. Like I don't get out of shape. Like when you're that active, like you're proving that over and over again. There's also a different benefit. I know you won't mention it, but I will. You get through those entry level fights. Now you're in a position where you can renegotiate. You get through that first wave of entry level contracts, and then it's like, well, hey, you gotta pay me more next time. I guess it depends on the promotion, but I know there are some where if you keep winning, they'll like bump you up for your next one if you keep winning.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a factor too. Like obviously we're all, we all love the game. Like you won't do it unless you love it. Like you can't fake this for too long,
Right.
So, you know, we're all in it because we love it, but we're also, trying to make money. Like we're all trying to get to the big stage, we're
Yeah,
all
and there's nothing wrong with that, man. I tell every single fighter that I have ever spoken to, regardless of what level they're competing at, whether they're an AMI or whether in the UFC, it doesn't matter. I say the same thing. Get as much money as you can. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's the fight business. Like, they're making money off of you. Like, they're making a lot of money off of you. Um, there's no, you don't have anything, you shouldn't feel bad about getting what you're worth. You should never feel bad about being a businessman and negotiating. Like, that's part of the business. And with every sport, but particularly fighting, you can only do this for so long. Like, when you're 40 years old, you're not going to be fighting competitively. I find it highly unlikely you're going to be 40 years old still fighting. Uh, it's one of those things where it's like, if you can do this for a limited amount of time, like you need to do what you need to do to take care of yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that.
right. Yeah, there's very few guys who can fight until they're 40, So
Unless you're a heavyweight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
I
get
say,
or
I say,
Glover.
I say, use your platform, man, and just like be as active as you can. Like, you know, to young fighters, like you just gotta get there and then make what you can with it. Like, yeah, fighting isn't you can't fight forever.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Oscar, man, pleasure speaking with you. To shout out who needs shouting out, if you have any sponsors or anyone at your gym that you'd like to.
Well, first I like to shout myself out. Go follow me on Instagram, Moisty_1, and all my sponsors. I've actually been pretty blessed with a lot of sponsors. A lot of people have supported me through my career, and I have my big sponsors, Denko. I got Beltron's Grill. I have Immortal Racing. I have Sheath. I have JNR. I have Roofco. So, and they're my Pure Cleaning Services and Beta Event Center.
I grabbed clips of you that I thought were really cool. What do you want people to know about you as a fighter before they watch your fight clips?
Well, I just I like to push the pace a lot, and I like to entertain. Like, like some guys take it as disrespect or something, but like I be putting up my hands during fights, or I've put my hands behind my back before. Like, it's just like gets me going. Like, it's not like it. That's when I'm like flowing, and that's kind of when I'm at my best. And it's just entertaining. That's a part of our job as well.
Thank you, sir, for being here. Appreciate your time. We'll do it again soon. Ladies and gentlemen, Oscar, the Moisty one, Herrera.